did email before he came to MIT doesn't fit. You see, the fact is innovation occurs outside of the military-industrial complex. And I didn't need to go to MIT. And that's what bothered them. In fact, they went to Wikipedia and completely started editing all my wiki pages. One of the Wikipedia editors wrote this to me, senior editor. He tried to actually give me credit. And he goes, right away, my edits were deleted without discussion. He goes, I was called reckless. I was aggressively attacked. Okay? This was a random guy who wrote to me. So now what these people didn't know, because you're talking about Gladiator, that I've been a fighter all my life. I've had to fight the caste system. This is a picture of me burning the South African flag on the steps of MIT as a 17-year-old kid. And we forced MIT to stop supporting racist South Africa, okay? This is a picture of me challenging the president of MIT. I learned how to fight also at MIT. When one of my friends was jailed by the fascist Sri Lankan government in Sri Lanka, I ran one of the biggest protests to get him out. And that's me at my PhD graduation protesting the war in Iraq. But what was the interesting journey here is it's a very different thing fighting for others. And since you bring up the movie Gladiator, right? You guys sent me that. If you see the movie Gladiator, Maximus is actually a fighter, right? He fights for Marcus Aurelius against other people. But when this occurs to him, he has to go through a deep personal journey where finally he decides he has to fight for his own liberation. It's a hero's journey. So remember, all throughout my life, I was always fighting for others. When I went to India for 2 years, I exposed the entire corruption of the Indian government under death threats. I had to leave India. I fought for poor people. I fought for women. I fought for many people. But when this attack was taking place to me, it was a very, very different journey. I had to realize I had to fight not for me, but that 14-year-old version of me who did invent email. And I can tell you it's in many ways, it's easier to fight for other people, but it's harder to fight where you say, wait a minute, this is occurring to me. And so I had to go through that journey to fight for that 14-year-old kid. So I used everything I knew. So we created a website called Inventor of Email. We put all the information up. And then it took me 4 years. I finally found a lawyer who sued Gawker Media. And we forced them to give me close to $1 million. And all the defamatory articles were removed. And none of this was ever reported on Wikipedia. Okay? The fact is, email was invented outside of the military-industrial complex. And so the problem we have is the left wing tries to talk about racism, and the right wing tries to think there is no racism. There is a real racism. Let me tell you what the real racism is: putting us in boxes, okay? And it has nothing to do with color. The real racism is putting us into these little boxes. If you're blonde, in the US, you must not be that smart. If you're black, you must like watermelon, right? And they give these images. If you're Chinese, you must like to do kung fu all day. And if you're white from the South, you must be a racist, right? And if you're an Indian, you must run a 7-Eleven, or you must just want to meditate all day and be peaceful. The problem, or if you're a nerd, you must look like this. So the problem is this: what really bothered them is this, that in this body, as an Indian, I'm supposed to be like Gandhi, right? And just talk like this and be nice and not fight back. But I was not willing to do that. I was not being a good Indian. And that's what they don't like. They want people in their boxes. Does that make sense? They've characterized how people are supposed to behave. And I was not behaving in those realms, separate from the facts. It's so, there's no even a gray area here. I named it email, have the code, have the copyright. So if I was maybe white, blue-eyed, my name was Einstein, I'd be on every stamp. It's a fact. So you cannot deny the race issue. You have to look at it. And I've never used the race card for myself, but you have to look at that. one of the most important inventions of our time was done by a 14-year-old boy outside of the military industrial complex in a small university. That's what bothers them, because this means anyone can innovate. Anyone can create. Anyone. Right? But what they want to do is they want to limit innovation and creativity to a very small set of people. Does that make sense? That after you go to MIT, you can even drop out of Harvard, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates. That's cool. But you surely cannot invent something this magnificent without their institutional support. That's what bothers them. What bothers them is once people recognize that, you break the caste system. You see, we have a modern caste system. After you go to MIT, Harvard, then you get anointed to be a president, run for office, be a leader, etc. People from the bottom are not supposed to run for president of the United States. People from the bottom are not supposed to invent something like email in their own ecosystems. They have to go to their institutions of power, right? And my journey completely destroys that. But they have a serious problem with me because I won all their awards. I got out. So in 2018, as I saw all this occurring, 2016 is when I won that lawsuit. I realized, I've been an activist. I've always believed in building bottoms-up movements. And in 2018, I ran for United States Senate against a woman called Elizabeth Warren. This is a woman in the United States who said she was a Native American. She has no genes. She lied. She used race to get her position at Harvard. So we exposed her. And then in 2020, I ran for US Senate again as a Republican. And we had 3,000 volunteers on the ground. We had signs everywhere. The Republican Party, what I ran, should have embraced me. Again, they're racist. Again, we're not bottoms up, but we were bottoms up. They were top down. They found some guy to run against me and they stole the election. They literally stole the election. They deleted all the ballot images we discovered. We shared that on Twitter. Twitter threw me off for sharing the truth. And then I filed a lawsuit exposing the fact that the government had contacted Twitter to throw me off Twitter because I was exposing the truth. Government, which is the most biggest violation of freedom of speech. No lawyer in Massachusetts wanted to take on my lawsuit. I had to go study the law. And in federal court, I took the lawsuit, me against 3 Harvard lawyers, and I won. I won the injunction. And then I discovered the entire censorship infrastructure. This is in 2020. I discovered how the government has a backdoor portal into Twitter and to every social media company. We published that. And then we were going to go sue the government. The judge didn't want me to sue the government. He just wanted to put me back on Twitter. I refused. And then the judge tried to file criminal charges against me. He forced us to file the lawsuit, dropping all the claims against the government. I refused. I didn't want to go back on Twitter under that, right? I'd be selling out. And it was only recently I was put back on Twitter. But the problem is in 2020, we exposed the entire election systems. We exposed the backdoor portal. And it was my work as a scientist in 2020 that I ran the Fire Fauci campaign. None of these doctors did that. None of these people who come out now, we did that because I understood the science. We helped mobilize millions of people. We're the ones who put together the vitamin D, quercetin, zinc protocol. We saved millions of people's lives.